1.
Okay, so now we're going to look at section 4.2, applying the rules of debit and credit. And so we're going to take those same transactions that we did in chapter 3, they're identical, and now we're going to apply debits and credits to them. So nothing has changed except for the fact that instead of saying it's increased or it's decreased, you're going to say it's a debit or it's a credit. They've added a couple new steps to kind of our analysis process. We're going to identify the accounts again. We're going to classify them. Nothing is different there. We're going to determine the amount of increase or decrease. And then we're going to say which of these accounts is a debit and which of these accounts is a credit. And then we're going to put them into a T account. So if I scroll down here a little bit, like we talked about in the previous section, the T account is just a tool that helps us determine which is the debit and which is the credit. So these first two transactions are assets and owner's equity when the owner is investing. So our first transaction that we always do, Krista Vargas took $25,000 from her savings and put it into a business account and started Zip delivery. So from chapter 3, we know that we have cash and capital. Cash is an asset. Capital is owner's equity. They are both increasing by $25,000. So if I look at my rules for debits and credits, the cash account is increasing. And I have a little handout that I'm going to give to everybody. But if I look at the increase side for an asset, it is a debit. And capital is increasing, and the increase side for capital is a credit. So my debits and credits are equal. Same kind of transaction here. I'm going to invest a couple telephones into the business from my home. Okay, so it's another type of investment. The two accounts are office equipment and capital. Office equipment, of course, is an asset. Capital is owner's equity. They're both increasing by $400. Increases to assets are a debit. Increases to owner's equity or capital are a credit. So here's my T account with the debit on the left side and capital with my credit on the right side, because a debit is a left, credit is right. Okay, so now this section, we have a bunch of different transactions. We're going to have an increase to an asset and a decrease to an asset. So we're going to have a debit and credit rule for both the same kind of asset. We're going to have an increase to an asset and an increase to a liability, an increase to an asset and a decrease to another asset, kind of similar to transaction 3 here. 6 is a decrease of a liability and a decrease of an asset, and then finally increase of an asset and decrease of a liability. So we're going to issue a check and to buy a computer. So we have computer equipment and cash. Both are assets. Computer equipment is going up, it's increasing, and cash is going down because we wrote a check. Increases to assets are a debit, so we're going to debit computer equipment on the left. Decreases to assets are a credit, so we're going to credit cash on the right. Okay, doesn't matter that it's a normal balance side over here, it's a decrease, so it's on the credit side. Then we bought a truck from Coast to Coast Auto on account for $12,000. Delivery equipment is the asset that the truck is going to go under. Accounts payable from our chart of accounts is the account payable. Delivery equipment is an asset. Accounts payable is a liability. Delivery equipment is being increased, and so is accounts payable. Increases to assets are on the left side, or a debit. Increases to liabilities are on the right side, or a credit. And I don't know what went on with the T accounts there. So I just did a quick example. So this would look like this, the debit to the delivery equipment on the left and a credit to accounts payable coast to coast on the right. Okay, moving on, couple more here. We sold one of the phones on account to Green Company. So we're going to have accounts receivable and we're going to have office equipment. Accounts receivable we know is an asset. Office equipment, is also an asset. Accounts receivable is increasing because it's a future value, and office equipment, we lost a phone, is decreasing. So we're taking an increase to an asset is a debit on the left side. So that's what's happening to accounts receivable. A decrease to an asset is on the right side, and that's what's happening to office equipment. Okay, so transaction 6, we have a check for $350 as a first installment on our truck that we bought. We're going to have accounts payable, and we're going to have cash as our two accounts. Accounts payable is a liability, cash is an asset. Accounts payable is decreasing, we owe less money, and cash is decreasing because we wrote a check. So liabilities decrease on the left side, a debit, and assets, the mirror image, decrease on the right. Cash is going down by $350, so that's a credit of $350. We deposited a check for $200 from Green Company. They paid us for the telephone that we sold them on account. So cash is one of our accounts and accounts receivable is one of our accounts. So cash and accounts receivable are both assets. Cash, however, is going up. Accounts receivable is going down. Increases to assets are on the left side, a debit. So we're debiting cash for $200. And decreases to an asset are on the right. So we're crediting accounts payable for $200. So those are some of the transactions. We're going to do a lot more together. And I'll do a problem for you next.